my wife and I decided that I was going to leave safety or perceived safety. Let's put it that way. It was so that I could be more present father, physically and mentally. Like that was a big part of the why and still is. It's why I've architected my life around my family. So to this day, I dropped my kids off at school this morning. I do that every morning. Like it's the way we start our day. I try to stay highly, highly involved in their lives. And that means sometimes at the expense of not doing business. But one of the things that I've realized, my friend, is that I can always go get more business. I can. I just got to work. I got to put in the effort. But I can't get more time with my children. I can't create more of that. And I'm acutely aware that they're little humans that are growing up in front of me and they're going to leave one day. I see it happening with family members. Got a niece who just went off to college. I see what it's done to her mom and her dad, and I'm like, man, that's going to be me one day. That's going to be me one day. It's going to be me. So knowing that and being a very, tend to be a pretty logical human, I'm like, man, I gotta soak this up. I gotta soak this up right now, not tomorrow, right now. And so that's the mindset that I've taken with this company. We built it deliberately on purpose to be able to be a way more present dad and a way more present husband. And when those things are true, my legacy becomes true, no matter what.
All right, welcome to season 4 of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business through CFO services and consulting. Now, this is season 4, and I told y'all, every season we're going to get bigger and better. So, I had to go into my Rolodex, what I'm saying, and think about who are doing it at a big level. Because again, if you bought a company, sold a company, just scaled really fast, I'm like, they need to come on here because we're seeing a whole lot of special with AI. You got some people flexing and, I have multiple businesses and they're bragging. But as somebody who's behind the scenes and sees the numbers, there's a right way to do it and there's definitely a wrong way. So, there's this guy I knew and we had a mutual client and I'm like, man, he's helped him with that. I met him in person. Always the heart of the room. Everybody gravitates toward him. So I was like, bro, why don't you come on and tell the people the stuff that they need to know that you've seen is not working. So I call him KO like the wrestler, but Kevin is here. Tell the people what's up. Tell them name, business name, and how long you've been doing this.
Well, first of all, man, I appreciate the invitation and the warm words. I'm Kevin Oldham. My friends do call me KO. I'm a martial artist, and it's kind of interesting that my nickname is KO. So you can call me KO. I am honored to be here and to dive in and share some wisdom with your audience.
All right, let's jump into it because y'all. Now, let me just preface this. Y'all know how this always works. Our people come on here and they're so chill and, I don't do a lot. This guy, again, multiple businesses, help people with multiple exits and acquisitions. So he's going to be real humble. He's going to drop these nuggets real slick. I'm going to come back and highlight them. All right, so let's start with the basics. Tell the people how you got into the game. What do you do so that way they just know who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old school agency guy. So I've been, frankly, my first job at an agency was 30 years ago. So I'm sharing a little bit of my age here. I'm a 3-time agency founder since 2005. And about 18 months ago, I decided to change directions, exited part of my agency, and became a certified exit planning advisor through the Exit Planning Institute. Wow, that was a lot of the use of the words exit. But that is a lot of what my work focuses on. And so that conversation and that word is a pretty common one that shows up in our lives. Really what we're focused on though, man, it's not about the exit. I'm trying to help entrepreneurs live their best life right now. Cameron, a lot of the things that you would do, and most of the things you would do to make it so that you have a business, an agency that is transferable to another human being or a group are the same things that you would do to potentially fall back in love with your agency. So if you've ever seen the TV show on HGTV, Love It or List It, I do the same thing for businesses. I really do. I'm going to come in, I'm going to help you get your business to a place much like what you do, right? The financial aspect. There's a lot of other aspects to potentially fall back in love with your agency again. We're going to do those things, and you're going to look up and you're going to have options, optionality, and the optionality provides that peace of mind and a lot of that freedom that a lot of agency owners are seeking. That is elusive. It's elusive, and I think I know why. And so we'll dive into that today as well.
Now, like I said, we had a mutual client, so I'm a little biased. I've kind of seen this work already, but I'm not gonna
Hmm.
spoil it.
Yep.
But like he said, there are multiple pieces because, like he said, we do the same thing, but our focus is very singular. The financial
Yeah.
side we may touch, which I know he's gonna get into some of the offer, some of your pricing, some of your structure, but he's gonna oversee that whole entire process. And he may say, "Hey, you go talk to a Cameron because you need to get that fixed. I can tell you that's not going to work. Or we need to go get you a CTO or whoever to help
Hmm.
fix." So tell the people. Let's start with just your stuff before we go into the other things. So you said you had three different agencies. Let's
Yeah.
talk about what are some of the things you've learned at each stage of those journeys. Because a lot of people are like, "Man, I'm on my first one," or maybe they're
Yeah.
struggling through the first one and don't see how to improve it.
Yeah. I mean, the first one was pretty easy. I mean, it was 2005, downtown Kansas City, which is where I live, was going through a renaissance. Like our downtown used to be a, a vacant at 5 p.m. It was just a ghost town. And Cordish Company, which is a big developer out of Baltimore, decided to come in and renovate and give a heart to and a pulse to our downtown. Okay. And so when that was happening, and right at the beginning of that happening, we hooked up with, so we were a real estate development marketing company called Third Rail. It's still around today, which is pretty wild. And we got blessed. I mean, we ended up building a relationship with the company that was doing the majority of the renovations of bombed out looking buildings and converting them into lofts. And our job was to go pre-sell these. Now think about the time, 2005, right? Before the great before the housing crisis. And so people were, condos were just going nuts and everything. And we were the largest media buyer with Kansas City Star every single year because that was back where people found real estate. And that business went to seven figures the first year. And so I thought that was normal. Then I went and did it again, a company called Enhanced Marketing Solutions, this time within the confines of what is now a over $100 million organization. Um, that was a different play, but still went really quickly. Went really quickly. Got over $1 million in revenue in the first probably. It wasn't the first year. I'd say it was the first 18 months. So I came into my agency a decade ago thinking that was normal, thinking, oh yeah, this is exactly what's going to happen. No, that's not what happened. The lesson that I learned was that it's infinitely harder to do it by yourself because DeFactory was something I did by myself, solo founder, versus doing it with other people. Doing it with other people was the force multiplier to be able to make those things happen. And yeah, I got humbled really, really quickly. It was about year three of DeFactory. I'm like, man, we still haven't cracked this number that I was able to get to, and what's magical about that number? Well, it provides a little bit more wiggle room. I mean, that's all it really is. It's a vanity number. But it does provide the cash flow and the capital to be able to hopefully make some investments in the company and grow without having to completely just, you know, worry about every single nickel that's coming through the business. So there you go.
Okay, now again, I know him. I met him in person. So one
Hmm.
of the things is, and he will say this. So I'm more so just championing him with the pom poms. He's happily married, got two kids, and one of the things I remember. I don't even know if you remember we had this convo, but he was talking about his son and how I think it's either when he turns 10 or 12, he gets to do like a day where he like picks wherever he wants to go.
Hmm.
So explain to the people like how did you fight through? I'm super ambitious. I'm trying to hit this high revenue goal, but I don't want to leave my family behind. I still want to be active. I still want to have a great relationship with my son and my daughter and my wife. Like talk through some of that for us.
That one's super easy for me. The reason this company exists is because I'm a dad. So my last company, I was there for 7.5, 8 years. Most people thought I was going to be there forever, myself included. I mean, when I started there, I was like, man, this is awesome. And it was a franchise system that had a couple different brands under it, and I worked my way up to chief marketing officer. And that's, $100 million plus organization right now. One of the brands that I founded is a big part of that revenue. It's called United Real Estate. I got to co-found that business in 2010. And what was interesting was I was on the international expansion team. I got like all sorts of opportunities to travel to Latin America, Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico. I was just having a great time. But the problem was I was having a great time professionally, but I was spending a lot of time away from my family. My office was 45 minutes away from where my home is. So I was spending 90 minutes a day in the car. I was traveling internationally. I liked the international travels, but I didn't like being away from my son, the son who's now 13 that you talked about. And so when I decided, and when we, not I, my wife and I, decided that I was going to leave safety or perceived safety, let's put it that way, it was so that I could be more present father physically and mentally. Like that was a big part of the why and still is. It's why I've architected my life around my family. So to this day, I dropped my kids off at school this morning. I do that every morning. Like that's the way we start our day. I try to stay highly, highly involved in their lives. And that means sometimes at the expense of not doing business. But one of the things that I've realized, my friend, is that I can always go get more business. I can. I just got to work. I got to put in the effort. But I can't get more time with my children. I can't. I can't create more of that. And I'm acutely aware that they're little humans that are growing up in front of me and they're going to leave one day. I see it happening with family members. Got a niece who just went off to college. I see what it's done to her mom and her dad, and I'm like, man, that's going to be me one day. That's going to be me one day. It's going to be me. So knowing that and being a very, tend to be a pretty logical human, I'm like, man, I gotta soak this up. I gotta soak this up right now, not tomorrow, right now. And so that's the mindset that I've taken with this company. We built it deliberately on purpose to be able to be a way more present dad and a way more present husband. And when those things are true, my legacy becomes true, no matter what. No matter
See,
what.
I told y'all this man. He done.
It's true today. Like it's true today. If I died today, I died 100% the way I wanted to, meaning I lived my life the way I wanted to. And that feels really, really, really feels like high integrity.
Tell the people. Don't tell them his name, but tell them what made you come up with that concept of. I just called it like they get to pick the day because I kind of stole that. I don't know if I ever told you this. I recently stole that for my kid. She turned 10 in June.
Yeah.
So I had a
Yeah.
business conference. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just bring you with me. But I kind of let her
Awesome.
kind of dictate, like, she wanted ice cream for breakfast. She had ice cream like three
Yeah.
times that day. The whole night we went to like an arcade, the whole nine. But I got that idea from talking to and listening to people like you. So kind of explain
Awesome.
what made you come up with that concept. Because I think for most people, I'll speak for myself. I ain't gonna tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have the intention to, I'm gonna be there for my kids and I'm not gonna miss this and I want to spend this time, but you also have that mental pressure or responsibility of like, I do have to go out here and make this money, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, it was pretty simple. So I read a book, and I'm going to say I read this book back in 2000. I don't know. I read it right after it came out. It's by Bob Goff called Love Does. If you've not read that book, man, it's awesome. And he's a phenomenal author. It's such a great book. I gave it to all my employees at my last agency, which was kind of a faux pas, right? It's like it's a book based on religion, and I was like, I actually don't care. I love this book and I want to share it with you because there's some really good things like taking your kid on a bucket list trip. I'll kind of explain what he said to do. And then I've done this with both my son and my daughter. So they're 11 and 13 now. It's a bucket list trip to go do anything on the planet that they want to do with just dad at 10. And so Bob Goff's example, like his kids decided to do some crazy stuff. Like you'll read it. Luckily, my kids decided to stay on U.S. soil, which was awesome. And they both picked amazing trips. They both picked amazing trips. Like my daughter wants to be a veterinarian. She's a very animal centric human being. And I love that about her. So we went to Florida and we went to like Discovery Cove where you can swim with dolphins and do all these things. And we had a bucket list trip associated with wildlife and animals. And my son and I, we like to do physical activities together, skating, scootering, things like that. So he picked a scootering trip in Colorado, and we went to like 8 or 9 different skate parks throughout the mountains and bucket listed, throughout. And so that was a rite of passage. We don't do rituals anymore. At least we don't as much as we used to if we look way back, right? Particularly as it relates to raising children. And so, ritual that my parents did for me and my brother was bucket list trip to Vegas when you turn 21. It's like we both got that trip, right? I want to create memories like this where maybe my children are on a podcast in 20, 30 years and they talk about that stuff. You talk about legacy's journey. What's your legacy? Legacy. I think about that a lot, dude. I'm 50 years old. I consider myself maybe halftime at life. Maybe life extension gets a little bit further next 50 years. And there's a lot of perspective that takes place when you're kind of middle of everything, right? When you got aging parents, you got kids that still depend on you, you're kind of sandwiched, you just got a lot of things that are vying for your time. And I have to go back and discern, my mindset coach, Jose Bolaños, will ask me this question all the time. What's important now? What's important now? And I'm always asking myself that question. And when I answer that question, honestly, a lot of times it has nothing to do with what's happening in this office. A lot of times what's important now is that I'm showing up as a spiritual leader for my family, or I'm showing up as the dependable dad, for my daughter who, is having a hard time reading, or whatever it is, right? And so what's important now for me in this mid-career, mid-life stage is being a present human being with whoever I'm with, making sure that who I'm with a lot of times are the people that I love the most, my family, my dear friends, my inner circle. And then when I'm not with those folks, going out and living my life's purpose, which is to be the light, be the filament in the lives of the people I touch. And if I do that every day, man, guess what? It's life well lived. It's life well lived. None of that really has anything to do with the business aspect. The business aspect is a way to make all that stuff happen.
Okay, I like that.
And kind of spread my mojo around, right? Like share the love, make people feel valued, help them create value, like all those things.
So
There you go.
what I got from that is your identity is not in the business and how much you can make. You understand the business is just a vehicle to facilitate all the things you
Yeah,
just said. That's awesome.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I unfortunately had to bury a friend 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, yesterday, I buried a friend who's 50 years old, right?
Mhm.
I touched his corpse. I watched him get lowered into the ground. Okay. So that type of stuff. Yeah, nothing. I mean, some of his coworkers were in the back. They mentioned his work, in his obituary. He had a great career. He worked for the same company for like 20 years, which nobody does anymore. But it wasn't about, like, when his son got up, he didn't talk about what he did at work. He didn't talk about it. When his ex brother-in-law, who was still his best friend, got up and talked, there wasn't a word about what they did, what he did, his vocation. It was about how he showed up for his family. It's about how dependable he was. It was about how he's a badass dancer. It was about all these wonderful things. And none of it was about what he did. And if we think about legacy, and I love the fact that, I mean, I was thinking about today's conversation as I was going to bed last night. I always think about my day, right? I'm like, Legacy's Journey. What a phenomenal title for where I am right now. Because I'm always thinking about, what is my legacy? A weird thought experiment I've been doing. Like, I've been really figuring out, how do I want my funeral to go? Who do I want there? Like, I'm thinking about making it, like going ahead and writing invites and things like that. And making the list of people I want. to show up to my celebration of life, because those are the people whose lives I impacted and hopefully made a little bit better, if not a lot better, by me being here. And maybe that'll make up for some of the crappy things I did, in my 20s. Like my 20s were full of debauchery, man. I was kicking butt in the business world, but I was also, you know, off the rails with substance abuse and living a life of hedonism. And maybe part of this is also just me trying to live a better back half of life than I did the first half.
That's real. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing.
sir.
Okay, y'all. So I just I told you, I see all the wisdom we getting right now, because what I've learned from being around people like KO is when you start, it's, oh, I gotta make more money. You don't understand, I'm doing this for the people. But it took me being around people like him to be like, well, wait though. It does no good if you make all this money, but then you don't spend the time and do the stuff with the people. So hopefully you guys are able to take some tidbits and some wisdom and some snippets from, okay, I can redo this, or okay, yeah, I do need to prioritize this or make these shifts. Now, let's go here. We talked about kids. We ain't talked about wifey too much. Now you had 3 different companies, 3 different ways to maneuver, not even including the stuff you're doing now. How has her support been crucial to your success? Because you and I both know if you ain't got wifey on board, like life is
Yeah,
over.
you're dead. She's my superpower. I mean, and we think about this a lot, from the naming of the company, which is a funny story, to all the times I wanted to quit, to the time we mortgaged our house to buy a business. She's been, first of all, she's the voice of reason.
Mm.
Like, she is the superpower. She doesn't show up here, but she shows up here in multiple ways. Her thumbprint is on the business, and that's a good thing, because I know some spouses where it's like, man, maybe I wouldn't want that thumbprint on the business. But my wife's thumbprint on our business is a very good thing. Her thumbprint on me as a man is a big portion of why I am the man that I am today. I want to be a good man for her. Like, I want to be an exemplary man for her. I want to be the best that I can be, right? And so, my favorite story about my wife, I mentioned mortgaging the house to buy a
Yeah,
business.
that was real
So
slick how you
yeah,
found
this is
that.
a good one. This is a good one. I'm gonna get sit crisscross applesauce here. So I get invited to a lot of opportunities. I actually have more opportunities than I probably publicly talk about, because some of them don't get off the ground, right? But most people that know me know that I own a chain of smoothie shops with my attorney and one of my very good friends, a gentleman by the name of Tim Dinker. And Tim brought this opportunity to me. It's actually called The Smoothie Shop and Supplements. He brought this opportunity to me back in, I don't know, 2016, 2017. And I became a sweat equity investor at like 5% or something. Maybe it was 10%. I can't remember. Small amount. And some things just happened, and we decided to buy out the entire organization. And I remember the day that Tim and I went and had a conversation with our CPA. We were driving down the highway. I was getting on the on ramp, and I mentioned something about. I said, "Hey, I wonder what would happen if we just showed up to our next meeting with the founder with a briefcase full of cash. I wonder if that would be enough just to make this nice and clear." I was kind of kidding, right? But I was like, man, when people see a briefcase full of cash, right? Like, that's different than digital money. I'm like, what if we actually showed up with a bunch of cash? Whatever that looks like, show up with it. And that was the first time I talked about putting money into the deal, because I was a sweat equity
Mm.
investor, right? That day, by the time that day happened, we drove to my office. We got in front of the whiteboard. My attorney heard me say for the first time I was willing to put money into it. That day, Tim and I called our wives from our office. I called first, and I said, "Hey, honey, Tim and I thinking about buying out the founder. We good if we get a HELOC, and here's the amount. It was 6 figures, and get this done." And she's like, "I trust you." And then my business partner had the same conversation. It's also why we're really good business partners. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. We paid it back within a year. We have no debt on our houses as a result of this business, right? Ended up being a phenomenal business decision for both of us. But that right there was like Andrea Oldham's thumbprint on the business. Now, the other thing that I want to share with you about my spouse and having a supporting spouse being a superpower is the founding of the business.
Mm.
When the founding of the business happened, I had been preparing mentally to at some point leave my company, my previous employer. But we really hadn't made any plans. And I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I'll never forget the morning where we're getting ready in the morning. My wife's getting ready to go to her job. I'm getting ready to go to my job. It's 2014. My wife she is on a different level because she works out in the morning and I don't. I work out in the evening. And so she's kind of amped up in the morning. She's like, hey, I want to talk to you. I thought about something on the way back from church, or not from church, from the gym. And I was like, okay, what's up? And she's like, whenever you're ready to quit, God spoke to me on the way home. We're going to be good. Quit. And I'm like, what? I say, what? And she said, whenever you're ready, I know that God's got us and you're a man of God and we're going to be okay. So quit. And I was like, holy shit. So I went and like probably 2 days later, formed the LLC. We formed the LLC. And then 6 months later, I had resigned. And we started this journey of solo entrepreneurship as the Oldham family. With half a client in our basement in 2015 and a lot of, what would be the word? A lot of chutzpah, a lot of ego. I mean, I brought ego into this. I got squashed in the first 3 months. It's gone. It's dead. But, like that's what got us going was ego and thinking I was going to be awesome, thinking I was going to do what I did the previous times. I mean, luckily I'd had some success because I probably would have quit if I didn't, like previously in life, coming into this, because it was like 10 times harder than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
It still is. It still is, man. I mean, there's still
Yeah.
aspects of it that are like, there's seasons. Like it's not this black and white binary thing,
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, you hit this point and life gets easier. No, dude. Life can get very hard very quickly with like one piece of mail from the IRS or a phone call or whatever, right? Key employee leaving, whatever it is. Whatever it is.
Not the
Stuff
IRS.
happens.
Not the IRS.
Whew.
Okay. Let's go here because you slid this in real smooth. You talked about equity deal versus cash deal because there's different thought processes behind that. Now that you've not only done it yourself, but helped other businesses, give us some of the pros and cons of both. So, like, if you're going to do an equity deal, make sure you got these things in place. If you're going to just come up with straight cash, you need to make sure the deal is in your favor, like so and so. What do you got?
From a buyer's perspective or seller's perspective?
Oh, that's right, because you've done both. Let's start with buyer, and then we'll go to seller.
Okay.
I'm gonna take my notes because I know he finna drop the bombs. Y'all got to keep up. Let's go.
Well, I've been involved in a ton of equity deals on the buy side. So I'm an angel investor through a incubator called Beta Blocks. Okay, so we take in companies, we put them through a 6-month curriculum, et cetera. So I probably have equity in 30 companies. I'm talking like little small pieces, right? I'm still waiting for a lot of those checks to get cashed, and they may not get cashed. And that's the thing with equity. It's like if you have equity, the business has to perform. And depending on what type of equity, the way you have your agreement structured, so mine is only triggered upon a change of control in the organization. I may never see the equity showing up in terms of ones and zeros in my bank account for those. Okay. So that's one thing you got to think about. People talk about equity. Equity is worthless without some sort of mechanism to access it. Okay. Like we own equity in my wife's company. We wrote a check to my wife's company. That is illiquid at this point in time. It's not touchable. It's much like, the stuff that shows up in my retirement account, for example. Like I can't touch it, right? So different types of equity. They may be the same instrument, but how you've written the terms and conditions so that are you getting distributions based on profit and things like that. So the terms associated with equity matter. Nothing sucks more than having somebody on your cap table that you don't want on your cap table as a business owner, your cap table, your capitalization table, who owns the equity in the company. So from a seller's perspective, there's nothing worse than having somebody involved in your business that you don't want involved in your business. So you have to take it very seriously. Because when somebody's involved in your business, I don't care if they have voting control or anything like that or not. I just saw a lawsuit here in Kansas City where, main shareholder had all the control. Some minority shareholders didn't, but they were able to sue and get, payments and things like that from the main shareholder, even though they didn't have all this control because the main shareholder was being kind of a weenie. And so you have to be, in business with people who aren't weenies. Yes, I said weenie, W-E-E-N-I-E. That's a parenting term I use with my kids all the time. Don't be a weenie. So don't get into business with weenies. Equity with weenies stinks. I like cash. Cash is predictable. If I'm a seller, I'd like as much cash as possible, but I probably still want to keep a little piece of my equity in case the next people take my company and blow it up and make it a huge success, right? And so equity can also be like an incentive tool, using it with cash. And really it's up to the buyer and seller, like what makes the most sense for both parties. But I like a mix of when a business is exchanging of cash and equity. I'm the type of guy who I always want to keep a piece. Like if I were never to sell to factory one day, I will want to keep a piece of it. I will want to keep equity in that asset because at some point I will decide to bring in other management team members, and those people will probably want to have a piece of the pie. And eventually my piece will get smaller in terms of percentage, but hopefully it gets bigger in terms of the volume of it. And so it's just a mechanism. Equity is just a mechanism. It gets thrown around loosely. I think that first-time founders, one of the things I see at Beta Blocks when I was mentoring a lot of them is they throw around equity very easily. They think it's like free and a good way to attract people and all this. I'm like, it's awesome until you're running a $1 billion business and you gave away 10% of your company and you don't like the people you gave it away to, or they're not around anymore. They're not contributing to the enterprise value. So be careful with equity. Don't treat it like it's free.
Don't treat it like
award it with caution. If you're a recipient of it, make sure that you have ways to access it that make sense for you, right? And don't have weenies on your cap table. Don't put weenies on your cap table. It's just another way of saying don't go in business with people you don't want to hang out with or be friends with or like or enjoy. Because I've had business partnerships that suck. And there's nothing worse than trying to unravel those. And then I've got business partnerships with people that are amazing. And I'll tell you, having the right business partners makes life so much more fun. So much more fun. Business more fun.
Okay, maybe we should go there then, because some people may have had a bad experience with a former business partner, or
Mm-hmm.
some people they're doing well and maybe realizing that they could go even further with one. So what are some of the top maybe suggestions you would say, hey, what I've seen is great business partners have these kind of characteristics or things in common?
Ooh, man, I mean, I've got a pretty, I got a pretty narrow buy box in order to be my partner. And this is going to sound bad, but I actually don't care. First of all, they have to be a Christian. If we don't have the same views that I have as my number one priority in life, which is my faith, then we're not going to be aligned and we may not make decisions from the same place in 10 years. And I look at business as something that's going to be, hopefully outlive me and maybe my, go to my heirs or whatever. So I think about that. So that's the first thing for me. And so what does that mean for you if you're not, Christian or whatever? And actually, I don't care what your religion is. It's like, okay, make sure that you guys are aligned at a fundamental person or fundamental level outside of work. Character is probably what I'm searching for when I'm like, hey, is somebody a Christian, right? I'm probably looking for somebody who has those same character, at least aspirations, and believes a lot of what I believe. So that's number one. Number two, complementary skill set. So my business partner in my smoothie shop, my protein company, and other things that we're working on, my attorney, he's an attorney. He has a finance degree. He likes process. He's black and white, right? What am I? I'm the opposite of him. I'm the yin to his yang. I'm the crazy dude who likes to color outside the lines, who has a lot of energy. He loves me and what I'm able to bring to his world, and vice versa. Okay, so complementary skill sets, complementary work ethic, complementary worldview. And then we look at, like if I were somebody who cheated on my spouse, we couldn't be business partners. I know that about Tim. And same way with him and me. You have to be a good dad, a present husband who's providing for the family, doing all these things in order to be either mine or Tim's business partner, because that's the way that those like our screening criteria, which probably means I won't have a ton of business partners in life because that criteria gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And then it's like, well, then do I like you? Like Tim and I, he has keys to a bank account that I've never seen. And I don't care. because I trust him implicitly. Right? Like, where do you get that level of trust with people? Over a very long time, a decade of working together and getting to know each other and being there and being at each other's parents' funerals. I mean, dude, we both buried a parent in the past 5 years. And we were each, one of the only friends that was at each other's funerals. Like that's how we're doing life together, you know? And that type of level, I mean, it's like marriage level trust and commitment to another human being. So I take this stuff very, very seriously, probably way more serious than other people do. But I've also seen bad partnerships destroy businesses and lives.
Mm.
Destroy businesses and lives. And I don't want that in my life. I have had businesses go belly up. I've had relationships implode. I reflect on those a lot of times when I get through them and discern and be like, what could I have done better? How could I have been more aware or potentially avoided this? And in some cases, the answer is you couldn't have. But I also know there's things that are within my control, the things I just talked about: character, worldview, complementary skill set, trust, implicit trust, that define a great business partnership. So when Tim came to me with another idea about 60 days ago, and he's like, hey, I see a gap here. Boom, 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 boom. It was very, very simple for us to have like a very short conversation and be like, go, no go. Do you see what I see? Boom, boom, boom. All right, let's go. And we just started building. Like, oh, you get this, you get that. Oh, I knew you were going to get the LLC. I knew you were going to get the bank. I knew you were going to get TXID. I'm going to get the website. Boom, 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 boom. And the first week, we've got a company kind of stood up quicker way than you could have ever done before because of all of those things.
Okay. I hope y'all got that. I got be very, very specific. And he mentioned things like character, complementary skill sets, good
Yep.
parent. Do I just flat out like you? If religion is strong for you, is that going to be a deciding factor? So
Mm-hmm.
these are some of the things that you guys need to filter. Do I want to work with this? Not just we've been cool or we both good at making money, but those
Right.
tangible things that can persevere through the ups and downs of doing business. Okay. Now, you mentioned this. Y'all just came up with this idea that you found to serve something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You help, like you just said, you're in the incubator. You help facilitate that now with the exit planning and strategy. Give me the top 3 mistakes you see happen when people are like, all right, man, I want to come either buy or sell the business. What are the top 3 things that you're seeing that you're like, wow?
The biggest one is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now is that most businesses are not sellable. Most businesses, statistics from Exit Planning Institute are that 80% of businesses that just won't ever sell. Put on the market, won't sell. Why? Well, most founders create a prison for themselves. It's not a bad thing, right? It's a lifestyle business. It's a business that revolves around the founder. That's hard to sell when the time comes. It just is. And the biggest mistake that I think a lot of people have is they may have like I keep a balance sheet for our family and I've got the business assets valued because that's what I do and put in there, right? Well, I think a lot of founders put a value on their business and they put it mentally in their head or on a personal balance sheet like I do. And they think that one day somebody's going to want that. And they're probably counting on it because a lot of founders' net worth is associated and tied up in their business. And when they hit that point where they've had a bad day and they're like, F it, I'm done, or I want to burn it down, I want to get out, right? Typically, the news that they find out, myself included, back in 2023 when we tried to sell, was that you have an unsellable asset, and it's going to take a couple years of work to get it to a point where you can actually sell it. And so that's a journey I went through from 2023 until basically January 31st of this year, of tuning things up, extracting myself, and it's a process, right? And most people are, by the time you're done, say I'm done, I'm over it, I hate my company. That's why I run this challenge called Love Your Agency Again. I want people to be able to love it again. I want you to fall in love with it again, because chances are you don't have something that can be transferred right now. So you only have one choice. That is falling back in love with it enough to get it lipstick, get it polished up, and potentially extract yourself and transfer it to another person or group. But that surprise, most sellers are ignorant. They think it's worth X. They hear all these things. They assume, and then when they get there in reality, they're like, "Wow, I actually have at least at a minimum a year's worth of work to do before I can do this." And it's depressing. It's depressing. I have a breakup letter in my email called Working Terms, where my deal in 2023 to sell to factory fell apart. And the two things they liked were me and the brand, and everything they didn't like were was the prison I created for myself. Even though I had employees, I had revenue, I had all these things. Guess what? I was still central to the brand. The company revolved around me. I was responsible for 100% of the sales. I had an untransferable asset, at least for cash, and wanting to walk away. So I'm going to give you that one thing, not three, because that is the number one thing. And really nothing else matters. As I'm working with founders, a lot of the work we do is to make that exit optional. I always say if Warren Buffett comes and knocks on your door, we're in Kansas City, where Warren Buffett has gobbled up a couple of organizations, gobbled up the first company that I worked for in real estate. It has a furniture store here called Nebraska Furniture Mart, makes it really hard to compete in a couple of those areas. And so I always say, well, if Uncle Warren came and knocked on your door and wanted to roll you up in one of these organizations, would you be ready? Could you? Would you want to buy it? Most of the time, the answer is no, particularly in agencies. I want you to ask me why I think that a lot of agencies are more untransferable than everything else.
I would take the guess because they've built the business around themselves. To your point, like I just wrote down, you said you are still central to the brand, even though you have a team. And all the
Yep.
ones, I'm trying to think of my roster, majority, with maybe the exception of a handful, they may have a team. They may have outsourced some to the Philippines. They may have some people local. But if they don't sell, game over. If they're not present, calling the shots, game over. They don't have enough of a management team that could stay in place and keep things moving. That would be my answer.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I think that those are all a symptom of first-time founders. So think about our business. It's
Okay.
an easy business to get into. You start, I'm a moron. Like I'm a business guy who decided to go start a marketing company after already starting to, seeing that they don't scale, they grow, they don't scale. Like I've seen the tape play a couple different ways out, but I still went and did it, right? But I'm not the norm. I started my company when I was 40. Most of my clients that I mentor, their agency owners aren't anywhere near that age. A lot of them started this business in their 20s as a side hustle, pandemic, whatever it is, got into it a different way than old school ad agency guy, right? And it's lightweight. Everything in this industry is like, hey, work from your laptop, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? No other industry do people think they should scale to $1 million in revenue like tomorrow than they do in digital marketing. So because of that, I think you get a lot of founders that it's their first time that they've managed a human being. It's the first time they've managed a P&L. It's the first time they've had to develop, or the concept of developing a leadership team when they're still trying to figure out who the hell they are and what their job is in the organization is foreign to them. And so because of those variables, that's my hypothesis as to why probably 95% of agencies are not sellable. I mean, the number, I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming it's probably higher than that 80% are because of that. And so my life's work is to try to help those individuals actually make something that is, of significance, an asset.
That's good. I hope y'all heard that. That you can have it employees, but if that brand is central to you, aka if we don't get Cameron, if we don't get KO, then I'm good.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Okay. Man, this was good. Okay. We can go so many ways here. Okay.
Let's go, dude. Chop it up into 2 episodes if you need to. I'm having a blast. Let's go.
Okay. So you've seen, let's go to this incubator because I think
Yes, sir.
you talked about how people just throw equity out there. Oh, I can just give you that. To
Yeah.
your point though, if it's not an attractive bit, let's even take one step back because you would know this. All right, you are the person who's going to invest in. What are the flags? So if I see that you are doing fill in the blank it's an automatic. I'm not investing in that because we're not even talking about partner at this point,
Yeah.
like you and Tim. We're talking more so. Do I think if I give you 50 grand or 100 grand or 250 or five, whatever, can you take my money and go out there and multiply it so that I can get that back sometime in the future?
So for us, in beta blocks, it's important to understand at what point in the incubation cycle that incubator serves. So in full transparency, I haven't mentored there since I bought the smoothie shop. So as soon as I bought that and I mortgaged my house, I told Wes, the founder, I'm like, hey dude, I gotta bow out. I just put my mortgage on a business. And so I gotta go do this. So I haven't
Right.
actively mentored those folks in a while, but what's funny is I still mentor them. Like they're still part of my life. So we take a batch of companies every 6 months. We would put in 12 or 16. I can't remember what the number was. And in many times we believed in the founder because the part of the incubation cycle that beta block serves is, hey, I have an idea, or hey, I have a minimal viable product, or I have a really good idea and I need help building my minimal viable product.
Okay.
We help them get off the ground, which means that we were picking a lot of different disparate industries, kind of like any hedge fund or mutual fund's going to. We want to diversify the risk across multiple industries, and that served Wes and Beta Blocks phenomenally well. So there's a TV show now called The Blocks based on Beta Blocks. It's on Amazon. It's like, it's a startup competition for founders. And you can see the work we did there. But the criteria was less about the business. I mean, sure, we had to believe that your business had merit and it was solving a problem. It was more about the founder. So what were we looking for in the founder? We're looking for commitment. Really, that's the number one thing we were looking for was commitment.
But wait,
It
wait,
was the
wait.
commitment.
But I'm
Yeah,
committed because I'm coming to you. I got my
it doesn't mean anything.
idea.
Doesn't mean anything. We're going to ask you the hard questions, right? Because most of these people still have a job. Most of these people have families and all these things. We're going to ask a variety of different questions as you're getting through the interview process to see if you're a good fit. Because frankly, we want to disqualify you.
So
We
this is
don't
like
want you to
Shark
get
Tank,
involved.
but on steroids.
Huh? What's that?
So this is like Shark Tank, but on steroids.
It's way more than Shark Tank, probably. So, we're putting them through a 6-month curriculum. We're giving them a
Ooh.
basket of services, office space, everything, access to mentors, consultations, pitching at demo day. Like it's a production, it's a production. Now people are going on the TV show. They're getting global exposure more than we could do in Kansas City and Tulsa, which are the two locations we have incubation locations. So it's more just about the founder. It's like, hey, do we believe in you? And sometimes we'd pick them wrong, and that's okay. You're gonna pick the wrong horse, but every once in a while you're gonna get one of those horses. Like one of the horses is on the market for $4.9 million right now. Like that's one of the horses. One of the Beta Blocks horses, one of the companies is on the market. Hopefully it attracts a buyer, right? And then that'll trigger back equity triggers to everybody who's invested in it. But that
Hmm.
incubation cycle has been about, I don't know, 10 years, a long time.
Okay, so let's talk about that because okay, you're talking about the thought process of an investor. I've invested 10
Mm-hmm.
years. Your now evaluation after we put in all this work, all this time, all this coaching is about 5 million. You're hoping though that it's going to be more than that. That there's you're hoping it's going to be more than five, or you
Mm-hmm.
think it's valued at five.
We think it's priced right.
So then your thought process now is it just a matter of we just got to wait and see?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Yeah.
in the meantime, you keep scaling and running the same play over and
Mm-hmm.
over.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. that business, I'm helping them, I just, it was kind of cool. Like I got to help them through some planning. And that was the number one thing. I'm like, this is awesome. It's exciting. I need you to like not get distracted, make sure your business continues to grow because, I've been through the sales process and you have to keep things growing and going up and up and up. If you go down, like that's toxic to investors. It's just really bad news. It's probably going to sabotage your sale. It's kind of like if something bad happens to your house, like, your basement floods while your house is on the market. Ooh, that's not good. Now I got to update the seller's disclosure. I got to take it off the market. I got to do all these repairs. It's not, I'm going to harm the value while it's in prime time, while the spotlight's on it.
Hmm.
So you got to make sure you continue to grow and do all of those things and tell that good story. In the deal book, it's got to be a good story. Offering memorandum, you got to have a really good story.
Okay, let's talk about acquiring because we talked a lot about buying. Or I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I said that so
I'm selling.
backwards.
Yes, sir.
We've talked a lot about from you selling. Now, when you're buying this company, so let's say you were the buyer, and I know
Mm-hmm.
you facilitated sales. We even just saw somebody right before the episode that you helped with.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're helping whoever, I'll just use me. All right, Cameron, you came to me and said you want to buy another accounting firm.
Yeah.
What are the things that you're prepping me to get my mind in the right place? Because I'm probably just coming in, big open eyed. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm ready to expand. I know the best way
Mm-hmm.
to expand is, yeah, ads are cool, but the fastest way is if I go buy another company. You're telling me straight out the
Yeah.
gate, what?
Um, First of all, be ready to work on an integration project. A lot of mergers and acquisitions are not successful because they don't do a good job of integrating the two organizations. So they just think that, hey, if we combine the financial statements, sure, we might get value creation out of that. Let's say we step it up and we're like, okay, we're in a new multiple range. We added another, couple $1 million of EBITDA on the book. Now we're in a different multiple, but we still have these two cultures of these companies and these two, different customers and all that. That's a project, and you have to be ready to, as the CEO, be ready to manage that project, or at least have your resources of the company manage it. And it's going to be harder than you think.
Yeah.
Look at all the big mergers that haven't worked in the world. What makes you think that you're going to be any different? If you look at, I don't care what they are, the biggest brands in the world, they come together. Daimler Chrysler, for example, let's use them as an example. They make crappy cars now. They should have just remained Daimler, which created Mercedes. But as soon as they brought Chrysler in, and now they're Stellantis or whatever, but as soon as they did that, I remember being at the headquarters of Daimler Chrysler in 2004 or three. I had Jeep as a client of mine. It was when the Germans had taken over. There were German speaking people in the elevators. And I'm like, this is weird. It was like they were running two different companies. And frankly, it hasn't worked that well for Daimler Chrysler. So when it comes down to small independent businesses trying to do the same thing without all the resources, without all the capital market money to be able to do it, all the people, it's really hard to integrate. So make sure that you're ready for an integration project. Also, buyers are liars, but I think sellers can be too.
Uh oh.
Trust but validate, right? Trust but validate everything. Figure it out. Like, get deep. You gotta look at the data. Don't believe what they're saying. Because everybody at the end of the day is probably selfish. We want self-preservation. What's going to be best for us? Sure, we might be nice, and we want what's good for the other people. But at the end of the day, we're selfish, and just remember that. I don't know. The other things are just be prepared for the unexpected that could come as a result of it. It could be good or bad. But anytime you start integrating clients and team members and all these things, you're just going to start changing the chemistry. And sometimes you'll find magic in there. Sometimes you might find, hey, as part of this acquisition, we got this unicorn of an employee who's really good at fill in the blank, and we've been searching for a really long time to find that type of person. We've not been successful. Like, that was awesome and unexpected. You may also find out you buy something, and it's kind of like when you buy a house. If the seller's disclosure wasn't filled out the right way, you might find something material later on. You got to be willing to work through that with the seller later on down the road. Like, there's just a lot of things that I think people think of it as a transaction, and it is transactional.
All right.
That's why they say there's a closing, but it's also relational. Deal making is relational. In order to make a deal, you got to have two parties that agree on stuff. And there's typically somebody in the middle who's trying to help them agree on stuff, because a lot of times it's hard to do, right? That's why agents exist in the sports world. Representatives exist everywhere. Brokers exist when you're buying and selling a house. Why? It's emotional as hell. It just is. It's very emotional. So put a neutral third party in there who is a trusted expert, trusted advisor, fiduciary, all the things that you want, and you'll increase your likelihood of having a successful transaction. And maybe you'll build some new relationships in the process. Hopefully you make some friends through it. Hopefully that's the case.
This was so good. Okay, my notes I got. Be ready to work on an integration project. That is
Yeah.
so important, but I don't think people talk about that because, to your point, like I remember, I got a buddy of mine, a financial advisor, and he's like, "Hey, we're thinking about buying this guy's accounting practice. Can we
Hmm.
get you to come in and then you just manage all that?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, how old is this guy?" And they're like, "Oh, he's like in his 70s." I'm like, "How is his tech?" Because he may be he has a ton of boxes with files. I'm like, "We're completely digital." I'm like, so that's going to be a problem. And then
Yeah.
what is his price point? Oh, we don't know, right? Because he may be doing like my grandma, who is great at taxes. She charges like $75. She don't care. She's
Yeah.
just trying to help people. That's
Right.
just her little extra spending money, when she want to go out to eat or something. That's not the
Yeah.
kind of business. So those clients wouldn't even transfer. So would that even work? Like you talked about, who are the people on your team? What are they like? These are so super crucial to the process, but all people talk about is what's my multiple. It does
Yeah.
not matter without these other pieces that he just mentioned. So I really hope y'all got that.
Absolutely.
You also said trust but validate. Use the data. Like, we're gonna operate as if you're honest, but let me look at those financials. Let me look at your team. Let me get a feel, and then be prepared for the unexpected.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I'm gonna end with this question because I think you give us a great answer. If you could go back in time, knowing everything you know, like right to the second, you get 30
Hmm.
seconds to go back to 18-year-old you or 22-year-old you. What are you telling yourself?
It's the second time I've been asked this question in the past 24 hours, so it's pretty easy. 18-year-old me, I'm going to go up to him and be like, first of all, you're going to get everything that you've ever dreamt of and way more. So chill out, dude. It's going to be all right.
That's a wise answer. That's
Because
very.
here's the thing, man. Like, I was always climbing mountains, mountain climber. I mean, that's an actual archetype of people I deal with. I got a couple different archetypes. When I'm mountain climber, I was a big time mountain climber. I was always wanting to achieve, achieve, achieve. And my wife would tell you this. It would make me really hard to be present. Really hard. I'm a very present person now. I think a lot about the near term, and that makes me a lot happier because you can't control what's in the future.
You cannot. I like this because, okay, see, now we got, I was trying to wrap it up. Now we got to talk about this. Because, to your
That's all
point,
right.
most agencies are very high achievers.
Yeah.
How do you, going back to tying it in with family, how do you balance that? Because you can't fight your wiring. So,
Nope.
like, give us some tricks that you've learned because, in your case, you're managing multiple companies, you're helping
Yep.
other people. So, keeping eyes on that. How do you manage that need or desire to achieve with the right reasons? But how do you practically manage that? What are some tips you could give people like myself? We
I got
got,
a whole plan, man. I got a whole plan. So I mentioned Jose Bolaños,
yeah.
mutual friend. This is my personal development plan from 3 years ago. And when we started working together, so the short answer is you got to work your ass off. I work this plan every day. You can see the notes on here, all this, right? This is a list of things that I need to do, activities I need to cultivate, things I need to stop doing. All of these things designed to honor my commitment to be the filament in the lives of the people I touch so that I can show up and do business the best way that I can. So I can show up and do life the best way that I can, right? And so it's work. It takes deliberate work to get to a place where you can be. And this is kind of what I always say. I'm oddly comfortable being uncomfortable. I can sit in uncomfortableness for a very much longer time than I could a decade ago when I started this company. I can sit here and I'll uncomfort you. I will. Put me in a cardboard box with my family. We're going to be good. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. You can strip it all away and we're going to be good. To have that type of mindset makes it really hard for somebody to break you or a business to break you or anything. And so I've been cultivating an unbreakable mindset that is core to how I lead as a business owner. It's core to how I lead as a father, as a husband, as a follower of Christ, of all of these things. And then everything else just is okay. Like it's not that big a deal. I know that sounds weird, but it's not. It's just not.
I feel that I'll be content in every circumstance.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Amen.
We could keep going forever. Hopefully, y'all, he dropped so many, just the bombs were incredible. This is what we're going to do. Tell the people if they're like, I need to connect with you. I'm thinking about starting my exit planning journey. I'm not even sure I'm ready. How can they get in touch with you? Make sure you tell them your name, whatever site, whatever materials. This is
Yeah.
your time to shine.
Yeah, cool. So first of all, you can go to bethefilament.com. That's my personal brand website. You're going to be able to click in the navigation and go to my company DeFactory from there as well. So that's the best place to go. Just get plugged in, connect with me on my socials, etc. Um, I am Kevin Oldham, KO. My last name is spelled like Oldham, Oldham. And I own DeFactory, which is a combination of the words differentiation and factory. You can find us at defactory.com. And I'd be honored if you showed up in my world. Anybody that I shed a little bit of light on today, I'd be honored if you followed me, connected with me, sent me I don't know, send me smoke signals, whatever it takes. Like, let's hook up and let's connect. I want to be a part of your life, big way, small way, whatever makes the most sense for you.
All right, y'all. I'm going to try my best. Y'all know how we do at the end. Okay. We talked about equity deals versus cash deals. Make sure that you have the right mechanisms to access the equity, not just have equity on paper. Make sure you're specific with, am I getting distributions? Am I waiting until you cash out, etc.? If it's
Mm-hmm.
cash, yes, it's okay to want as much cash as possible, but also consider leaving a little bit of equity in there just in case it blows up even bigger. You still got some cash flows. You talked about don't treat it like it's free. Make sure you can access it. Work with people who like who you like, of course. You talked about picking a partner. Make sure you're aligned outside of work. Good character. Do you guys complement each other, or do you have the exact same skill sets? And then, of course, just do you like them? Would y'all go out, to a wedding or to the bar or to a game? Some of the top things you mentioned on why can't you sell. Your why is just wrong. Your business is not ready. It takes years versus you just came up with this all of a sudden and thought you're ready. And you're still too central to the brand, even if you may have a team that can operate without you. Some of the keys you mentioned were be sure to understand that it's going to be an integration project. It's not just a
Yeah.
one-off transaction done. No, when you buy them, how is your teams going to merge the cultures, the tech, the processes, workflows, all of that? Trust but validate, and then be prepared for the unexpected. So, with that being said, any last words? Oh, wise Kato.
Yeah, you see this blue monkey sitting on my couch?
Yes, we can see it in the bottom left.
You got kids, right?
I do.
All right, here comes the only dad joke I've got. You ready?
Oh boy. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you asked. You opened the door. You ready?
Okay.
What do you do with a blue monkey?
What do you do with a blue monkey? Let it swing from the tree.
No, sir. You got to cheer him up. Got to get him so he's not down in the dumps anymore. So that's it's Legacy's journey. Cameron just died. He's done. This is Kevin Oldham. I'm going to wrap us up, put a bow on this. Have a phenomenal day. Smash the subscribe button. Be well.
All right, y'all. Until the next episode again, these are the types of people we want to bring to season 4. People who've done it at a high level, who are doing it, but they're not leaving the legacy behind. They're still trying to keep their family first because it is possible. Don't allow hustle culture to take you in a way, in a direction. You literally heard his story. You've heard the stories of, man, I made these mistakes, but I was able to correct them. I know better now, so I'm doing better. So, guys, this is season 4. Until the next guest and next episode, we'll talk to you then. Take care of yourselves. Peace.